Hey there besties! Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're continuing our recap of the manhwa Lucia. If you're new to this series, check the description below for links to previous episodes. Lastly, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy the video. It really helps our channel grow. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get started. Duke Hugo and Lucia stepped outside the castle for a quiet evening walk. He gently took her hand as they descended the steps together. Imagine my surprise. Entering the drawing room and finding it overflowing with boxes, he said with a faint smile. Lucia let out a soft laugh. Trying everything on took up my entire afternoon. Hugo raised an amused eyebrow. So, you tried on every piece? She nodded, her cheeks slightly flushed. Yes. As they walked through the quiet garden, the soft crunch of gravel underfoot, Lucia's thoughts wandered. She glanced at the man beside her. Does he realize? Moments like this make me happier than any lavish gift ever could? Still, she recalled the gifts. Every piece was stunning. Did you pick them out yourself? I did, she replied. I did look through all of them. Though, I may have just bought everything they had, he thought with a quiet chuckle. Did you like them? He asked. Very much. Thank you, she replied with a smile. She tilted her head, teasing. You seem to know a lot about women's accessories. As soon as she said it, she regretted it. Was that too pointed? She thought, watching him pause. I should apologize. She stopped walking. Hugh. Vivian. He turned toward her. She hesitated, then continued. Can we leave the past in the past? Before we were married, I mean. I'll try not to bring it up again. He looked at her for a long moment before his gaze softened. I didn't take it that way. He paused. Do you remember when you asked to change a clause in our contract? Lucia nodded slowly. You said that if I ever took a mistress, you didn't want to hear about it from anyone else. That if I ever stopped loving you, or cared for someone else, I had to be the one to tell you. Yes, I remember, she said, tension creeping into her voice. He gently took her hand. You don't need to worry. I wouldn't take a mistress behind your back. I wouldn't fall out of love with you, or leave you. So, please have a little faith in me. Lucia's heart skipped. She was caught off guard by the sincerity in his voice. Why is he telling me this? I was the one who misspoke. I shouldn't be the one bringing up his past. She looked at him silently, her face warm. So then, why? She whispered. Why? He echoed, puzzled. She didn't answer. He studied her quietly. Why are you looking at me like that? Lucia remembered something Sir Croton once said, there isn't a soul in this world capable of emotionally wounding him. Then why did he look so hurt? Then why wear that expression, like I just pierced your heart? I don't understand. Guilt washed over her. It stung, but strangely, she didn't want the feeling to go away. Does this mean I actually matter to him? I understand your hesitation, Hugo said gently. You don't trust me. And I've given you reasons not to. I mishandled things with Sophia Lawrence. I focused on work, dismissed your presence. We didn't even have a proper wedding. And on our first night, I was selfish. Even now, I keep making mistakes, he thought. I'll do better. Please, give me that chance. Vivian blinked. But why? What are you hoping for? Is he just being kind? Or is it something more? I don't hold your past against you, she said softly. Hugo looked surprised. Really? I don't have the right to, she murmured, and his eyes flinched at her words. No, he couldn't possibly feel that way about me, she thought, turning away. He stepped closer. I do trust you, she said, her voice steadier. You do? He asked. Yes. I trust that you'd never betray me without telling me first. You keep your word. He stood frozen for a moment. She can be so sharp, cutting, even. But then she lifts me back up with such grace. Everything's tangled. I've always solved problems by cutting through them, but this time, it's not that simple. Why do you want me to trust you? She asked, drawing his gaze. He hesitated. Why? I'm not sure myself. But with her, it matters. With anyone else, I wouldn't care what they thought. But with you, your trust means everything. How can you live under the same roof as someone you don't trust? he asked. He regretted the question the moment it left his lips. We're getting closer to something real. Yet still circling the same doubts, Lucia thought. I keep hoping he'll fall in love with me. But maybe that's too vague a dream. Is it really this simple? She finally looked up, voice calm. So, what you're saying is, you want to be a devoted husband, and you want me to believe that? He nodded. He's a duke and a knight. Trust is a necessity to him. Maybe that's why he's asking. It doesn't explain everything, but it tells me enough. He does care for me. She inhaled deeply. This is enough, for now. I'll trust you. But whether that trust lasts, depends on you. Her words made him flinch. She resumed walking, descending the steps quietly. If that was a joke, it's not funny, he said, half smiling. I'm serious, she replied, not turning around. He followed after her. But inside, his thoughts were racing. What do I have to do to earn her trust completely? If she hears even one foolish rumor, I might lose her all over again. I should speak to Fabian, he decided, slipping an arm around her shoulder as they walked on. The next morning, Ant arrived at Lucia's parlor. Your Grace. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I am Ant, the proprietor of a small boutique, she said with a polite bow. Two assistants stood behind her, bowing in unison. Lucia blinked. Ant. The name sounded familiar, pulling at the edges of a memory, one from her dreams. She remembered now. Auntie, the renowned designer admired by noblewomen throughout the capital. Welcome, Lucia said, offering a warm, if slightly reserved, smile. I've been told you're here to assist me today. It's truly an honor to meet you, Duchess, Ant replied with a spark of excitement in her voice. The night before, Hugo had mentioned it offhandedly. A designer will visit tomorrow. Now that we're in the capital, you'll need new attire. You can't rely on the previous Duchess's altered dresses anymore, not for the kind of social events we'll be attending. Lucia hadn't thought much of it at the time. She'd assumed it meant choosing one or two new dresses. But now, standing before racks of gowns and carefully laid out sketches, she realized he'd meant a complete overhaul of her wardrobe. All right, she thought, inwardly flustered. Hugh made it sound so simple. I thought this was just about a dress or two, not an entire boutique's worth. Her brow furrowed slightly. I already have enough clothes. I really should be more careful about expenses. Just one gown should be enough. Ant gestured politely to a nearby seating area. Please, Your Grace. Shall we sit? As they moved, Ant silently assessed her client. She doesn't seem easy to persuade, and the Duke did say she was frugal. This won't be simple. But Ant had no intention of backing down. I can't miss this opportunity. She recalled how the Duke had once bought every piece of jewelry at her cousin's store in Sepia. If he's willing to spend like that, I need to secure this client. Her assistants exchanged whispers. I've never seen Madame Ant so determined, one murmured. Neither have I, the other replied. Ant opened a sleek portfolio and handed Lucia a beautifully bound catalogue. These are some of our latest designs. Please take your time. Lucia began flipping through the pages, a strange sense of familiarity washing over her. I've seen these before, in my dreams. Ant studied her expression. Is there nothing that appeals to you, Your Grace? I'm sorry if the collection isn't quite what you were expecting, she said, tense but composed. Lucia quickly looked up. No, it's not that. The designs are beautiful. I just don't really know much about fashion. I'd rather leave it to you. Ant froze for a beat. Something appropriate? That's the most difficult kind of brief. But she composed herself. Of course, Your Grace. May I take your measurements? As her assistants began the process, Ant observed closely. The popular styles now emphasize the bust, but that won't suit her figure. She's slender, gracefully so. Better to highlight her waistline. Something clean and elegant. She's not conventionally stunning, but there's a unique charm about her. Would you mind if I made a few adjustments to your current dress? Ant asked sincerely. Lucia nodded, watching as Ant got to work. Alterations can do wonders, Ant thought, carefully pinning fabric. And with her clear complexion, even minimal makeup will make a difference. She really is striking, subtly so. You have a quiet presence, Your Grace, Ant said as she made final adjustments. With the right styling, I believe you'll leave a strong impression. Lucia looked into the mirror, taken aback. Is this really the same dress? It looks so different. I must say, I'm impressed, she added, turning to Ant. Ant's eyes lit up. Thank you, Your Grace. If you're pleased, perhaps I could show you a few more design options. Later that evening, Hugo returned home. As he walked down the hallway and saw Lucia, he immediately noticed her distant expression. I'm home, he said gently, but she didn't respond. Frowning, he approached and cupped her face. Vivian? What's wrong? You look troubled. She didn't answer. He turned sharply. Jerome. Since Madame Ant's visit, Her Grace has seemed distressed, Jerome said quietly from behind. Were they rude to you? Hugo asked, now gently shaking Lucia's shoulder. She shook her head. No, it's not that. I've done something I'm ashamed of. What do you mean? He asked, more gently now. She didn't respond. Vivian, he pressed, concern flickering in his eyes. I don't know what came over me, she admitted, cheeks red. I thought I'd just look at a few dresses, but I ended up ordering so much. It wasn't planned. He raised an eyebrow. That's what had you looking like the world was ending. She flushed. I commissioned 19 dresses. There was a pause. And shoes. And accessories. And cosmetics, she added in a smaller voice. Hugo blinked, then let out a short, amused exhale. 19, you say? Not 190. I must have overestimated Madame Ant's powers of persuasion. He turned, clearly trying not to laugh. Hugo, don't walk away, we're not finished. Lucia called after him. I've been out all day, he said over his shoulder. Let me take a bath. Then we'll talk. You might not feel so calm once you hear how much I spent. He smirked. And if I don't flinch, what's my reward? Reward. Every wager needs one. I didn't agree to a wager. Too late, he replied, already heading up the stairs. You have until I'm done bathing. Hugh, listen to me for once. She watched him disappear, flustered. When she turned, the maids were all looking away, clearly pretending not to have heard the entire exchange. Oh no. I completely forgot they were here. Just then, Jerome approached. Shall I have the maids draw your bath, Your Grace? Lucia blinked. Why? Well, you haven't had one yet today, and His Grace is already upstairs. Her face turned crimson. Yes, please. As you wish, Your Grace. Duke Hugo entered Lucia's chambers, his robe loosely tied. The room was quiet. She must still be bathing, he thought as he stepped inside. His gaze fell on an envelope left on the table. Is this the purchase order? He murmured, picking it up. As he scanned the contents, his brow lifted slightly. She didn't even spend 1/5 of the advance, he noted. I'll ask the designer to draft a secondary form. Then, with a thoughtful pause, he added, I'll have a copy made for Vivian, with adjusted prices. That way, she won't feel guilty. She really is too frugal. In the bathroom, Lucia sat immersed in the warm water, her mind replaying the day's events. Duchess, just relax and count the days to your grand debut in the capital, and had said, her voice full of excitement. Lucia let out a quiet sigh. I can't believe I let her talk me into it, she thought, picturing Madame Ant's smile. I'm hopeless. A maid approached and knelt by the tub. Your Grace, may I take your hand? She asked gently. Lucia hesitated, a flicker of guilt rising. I shouldn't be spending so much. Maybe I should cancel the order altogether. Just then, she heard the maids whisper. She looked up to see them hastily exiting the room. Hugo stood inside, leaning against the wall, arms folded. You were taking too long, he said simply. Hugh. That doesn't mean you can just come in while I'm still bathing. He raised an eyebrow, amused. Why not? We've bathed together before. She turned her face away, clearly flustered. Not while the maids are still around. It's embarrassing. You don't know how much the staff gossips. Unbothered, Hugo stepped closer. Well, why don't we continue our conversation, she said, but paused when he reached out and lifted her chin. I came for my reward, he said with a faint smirk. Her voice lowered. You saw the order forms. I did. And, like I said, Your husband can afford it. His tone was calm. Now, what will you give me as a reward? If you can't decide, I'll choose myself. Lucia tensed slightly under his gaze. How can he be so unfazed? I've been stressing over this all day, and he acts like it's nothing. What did you have in mind? She asked quietly. He gave her a look that made her instinctively cover herself, her cheeks flushed. That's it, she said, embarrassed. You've gotten worse with your teasing. Hugo chuckled. It's more efficient this way. We'll just need another bath afterward anyway. He untied his robe and stepped in beside her. Come here. Lucia turned her face, embarrassed but faintly amused. It's strange how comfortable I've become with this. A while ago, I would have been too shocked to move. She leaned into him without hesitation. As he held her close, Hugo thought back. When we first married, she was so shy, she couldn't even kiss me. And now, later that night, he lay beside her, watching her sleep in his arms. Gently, he brushed her hair back. She stirred. Oh, I'm still a little sore, she murmured sleepily. He smiled faintly. The coronation's been scheduled. It'll be in a month. Lucia blinked awake. That's later than I thought. He shrugged. The gap between a state funeral and a coronation is mostly tradition. There's even a formal rejection ritual where the nobles insist, and the king declines 3 times. Lucia sighed. A month. Summer will be over. What am I supposed to do with all those summer gowns? You'll have plenty of chances to wear them, he assured her. Word of your arrival is spreading. Invitations will come flooding in. She frowned. You mean tea parties? I thought none were allowed until the coronation. Officially, yes. But private gatherings happen all the time. Even now, there are parties every day. Oh, I see. She paused. I'm not sure I'm ready to jump into the social scene just yet. Hugo reached for her hand. You don't have to if you're not ready. Lucia hesitated. But if I stay hidden away for a month, people will talk. They'll think something's wrong with me, and that'll reflect poorly on you. Are you really okay with that? He smiled softly. I don't care what anyone else thinks. You're the only one that matters. I couldn't care less about what the rest of high society thinks, Hugo mused. Vivian was striking even without all the glitz. But the capital's elite, hostile and arrogant, picked people apart for amusement. The gown they wore, the way they applied makeup, nothing escaped their scrutiny. If Vivian were to be hurt by people like that, he was thinking, when she spoke and cut through his thoughts. I've reconsidered, she said, her tone measured but firm. I think it might be better to ease into things with something smaller. A tea party, maybe. Just to get a sense of the atmosphere before attending something as grand as the coronation. She clenched her fists. I can't let another odd rumor about you start because of me, even if it doesn't bother you. Hugo arched an eyebrow but remained silent. Lucia, resting lightly against him, continued. There's an event next week I could go to. It seems rumors are already making their rounds. He gave a small nod, quiet approval. If that's what you want, he said simply. She recalled her life before Hugo. Count Metten always pushed me to attend balls and nighttime events. There was rarely an opportunity for tea parties. I wonder how different they'll be here, compared to the ones in the north, she thought. From what she remembered, capital society was obsessed with appearances, quick to criticize and quicker still to gossip. At the few tea parties she had attended, hosts were sometimes picked apart for their clothing, and reputations were left in tatters. Still, those experiences prepared me for that incident in the north, she thought. Even so, 19 dresses felt excessive, especially with summer ending soon. Hugh, I've been thinking again. Maybe I should return. Enough about that, Hugo interrupted, his voice firm. If you return those dresses, people will talk. Just like you feared. They'll say the Taran household is struggling. Her lips curved gently at his words. Madame Aunt told me you visited her boutique yourself, she said, her voice soft. I did, he admitted. That alone gave me this strange surge of confidence, she thought, remembering how touched she'd felt. You're so lucky, Your Grace. What a wonderful husband you have. Aunt had gushed, her cheeks flushed. Lucia tilted her head slightly, eyes studying him. It's not like you, she said thoughtfully. I still can't quite believe you went out of your way to get those gifts. She smiled faintly. Why did you do it? Hugo frowned. Do I need a reason for everything? Her lips curved. If you won't tell me, I'll just have to assume the worst. He narrowed his eyes. Such as? That you were afraid I'd embarrass you, show up in rags and shame the Taran name. He shook his head. Not true. That's not it at all, he said, looking flustered. Then why? She pressed. He hesitated. Why is she always asking why? He thought. What do I say when I'm not even sure myself? I don't have a reason, he finally said, voice low. Can't it be enough that I just wanted to? Her expression softened, her smile gentle. It's enough, she said quietly, resting her head against his chest. Hugo exhaled, leaning back slightly. Sometimes I think I need a translator just to keep up with our conversations. She looked up, amused. Really? I don't feel that way. He looked at her, puzzled. She rested her cheek against him again, her blush returning. I just worry about the weight of it all, she murmured. He blinked. The weight. She didn't answer. Her thoughts were far away again. Hugo studied her face, calm and peaceful. Is she asleep? A flicker of worry crossed his features. Am I imagining it, or does she care more than I thought? He gently pulled her closer, holding her as they drifted off. Sir Philip sat quietly in his cabin, staring at the open book before him. It's time I left this village, he thought. On rare occasions, Phillips had imagined settling somewhere, but the feeling never lasted, soon replaced by the urge to move on. This endless wandering, perhaps it was punishment. He'd left behind too many ghosts. As dusk fell, he looked toward the mountains. I won't make it over before nightfall, he murmured. Later that night, his eyes stayed fixed on the campfire. I never imagined I'd find someone who had ingested 3-leaf mugwort right before her first bleeding, here of all places. He recalled Lucia describing her symptoms. I've treated patients whose cycles were disrupted by mugwort, but she was different. She did it to herself, and I had no part in it. The world still manages to surprise me. His mind drifted to the past. He had torn out the page that held his family's secret, intending to forget it. But it was too late. The remedy was already burned into his memory. He remembered his final words to Lucia. I hope you'll be blessed with a beautiful child. Even knowing how hopeless it all was, something about her had stirred joy in him. A girl in perfect condition, discovered not by him, but still deeply moving. Phillips vividly remembered the day he visited the duchy with Damien in his arms. Hugo's tiny hand had held his tightly. He had watched Hugo grow into a fine man, yet to him, he was always the little master. He had only seen him from afar in recent years, but always with pride. Years had passed since they'd buried him. The one he'd poured all his hopes into. Now just a cold body beneath the earth. His voice trembled. After that, the Duke gave up everything in the north. He disappeared into the battlefield. That was the end of everything I tried to build. A hollow laugh escaped him, a failed attempt to stifle the tears. Ha ha ha. My last memory is watching him ride off. Ha ha ha. Oh, Master Damien. His voice broke as he sobbed. In the private garden of the palace, Crown Prince Hesse sat with his wife, Beth, the future queen. She gently braided his hair as they spoke. When I brought up inviting the Duchess, the Duke refused outright, Hesse said, tension in his voice. I didn't expect it would be this hard just to meet my own sister, he added with a sigh. The rumors about the Duke being overprotective seem to be true. They say he's keeping her out of sight so no one else gets a glimpse of her. Beth looked slightly flushed as she responded, that's what they say. His being unreasonable, Hesse muttered. All I want is to get to know her. I suppose this is his way of reminding me she's the Duchess now. I never even met her before they married. When I tried to speak to her, he glared at me like I was a threat. The Duke actually said something like that? Beth asked, surprised. Hesse nodded. He did. Beth thought for a moment. Duke Taran is known for being calculating. Maybe he's worried you'll use your connection to influence her. You really think he's being that strategic? I do. He's always several steps ahead. Hesse sat up straighter. Though it was understandable for a husband to be protective, the Duke's caution felt excessive. Still, Beth's explanation matched the look he'd received that day. Shall I speak with him? Beth offered. You do that? Yes, she said firmly. And when I do, I'll refer to her as the Duchess, not the Princess. No matter how much he insists otherwise, he can't stop me from inviting her to a ladies' gathering. Just leave it to me. Later that day, in the palace corridor, Queen Beth encountered Duke Taran following his audience with the Crown Prince. It's been a while, Duke Taran. Were you just leaving His Majesty's chambers? It has, Your Majesty, Duke Hugo replied with a respectful nod. I heard the Duchess is now in the capital, Beth said, smiling faintly. Taran's eyes narrowed slightly. This again. They just won't leave Vivian alone, he thought. She's become quite the talk of the capital. Some say there's more interest in her than the coronation. It's all idle gossip, he said curtly. Perhaps, Beth said, but there's usually some truth in rumors. I'd like to meet her before her formal debut. I'm planning a luncheon, something small. I'll send the invitation today. I hope she'll be able to attend. Taran paused, his tone measured. Vivian must make her own choices. I don't speak for her, but I'm sure she'll be honored by the invitation. Wonderful. Safe travels, Duke Taran, Beth said warmly. As he departed, Beth turned sharply to her brother, Count David Ramiz, who had accompanied her. Why were you so silent? She snapped. You didn't say a word. That man. David, she cut in sharply. Duke Taran holds the same rank as our father. You know better than to speak so carelessly. The palace has ears everywhere. I was respectful. He was the one being. Mind your words, Beth said, pressing her fingers to her temple. Whether you find him rude or not, he has every right to address you however he chooses. But Beth. Enough. Her voice was firm. I've told you many times, watch your tongue. You're not a child anymore. Father was far too lenient with you. She turned away. I won't walk with you any further. Please leave on your own. And you'd be wise to rethink how you treat Duke Taran. David clenched his fists. He's just a brute, he muttered under his breath. Why should I show him any respect? Meanwhile, Duke Taran walked down the corridor alone, his thoughts drifting to his wife. It's been so long since I left early. Maybe tonight we can have dinner together. Back in Roham, we dine together every night. She'll like that, won't she? A faint smile appeared on his face. But his moment of peace was short-lived. Sophia Lawrence was approaching from the opposite end of the hall. Another one to deal with today, he thought, deliberately walking past her without acknowledgement. Your Grace, she called softly, making him pause. He turned slightly. Have you been well? She asked hesitantly. It's been a while. Congratulations on your marriage. And to you, Hugo replied. I heard you married Count Elvin. He's done well for himself in business. Yes, thank you, she murmured, her voice trembling. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. I'm here to meet Her Majesty today. I see. Then I'll take my leave. Before he could move, she reached out and held his sleeve. Will you wait? She said, voice quivering. He looked down at her hand coldly and pulled away. Are you happy? She asked quietly. He didn't respond, simply turned and walked away. Sophia stood frozen, watching him go. You're really just going to leave like that? Not even a word of comfort. Tears streamed down her cheeks. How could you say those things to me, and act as if nothing happened? I only agreed to my marriage because I couldn't bear seeing you with someone else. How pathetic of me. Why couldn't it have been me, Hugo? Her knees gave out, and she collapsed to the floor in quiet sobs. The next day, in her chambers, Lucia met with Ant, her dressmaker. This is your first visit to the Imperial Palace? Allow me to help you, Ant said with bright enthusiasm. There's no need to trouble yourself, Lucia replied politely. Nonsense. First impressions here are everything. You need to look your best, Ant insisted. Especially after the generous advance I received, she added to herself. Leave everything to me. Lucia looked uncertain. I wouldn't want to impose. It's no trouble, Your Grace. Designing for you brings me joy, Ant said, cheeks flushed. Money aside, you're my muse. Though the patronage doesn't hurt, she thought. Lucia lowered her gaze. Then, I'll trust you. Ant's eyes sparkled. To be honest, I already have something in mind. Already? Lucia asked, surprised. For your meeting with the Queen, I envision something elegant and modest. With your youthful features, we'll add just enough maturity to show confidence and poise. Sophisticated but lively, like someone who could still be single. She smiled brightly, her excitement clear.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. If you enjoyed what you watched, please consider liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Your comments mean the world to us and help us improve. The next episode promises even more excitement and unexpected twists, so stay tuned as we embark on this thrilling journey together. Keep the anticipation alive, and we'll catch you in the next episode.